Tonight on NewsWatch, more D.C. debate over immigration and securing the border. Can Congress reach a bipartisan solution? Plus, the stock market takes a dive. Is it a simple correction, or are we in for a rough economic ride? And Nik Wallenda on why he's planning a walk across the Grand Canyon and the faith that gives him the courage to do it. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are on the verge of an immigration deal. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin. The plan would open a pathway to citizenship for up to 11 million illegal immigrants. The bipartisan measure also doubles the number of agents along the U.S.-Mexican border. Charlene Israel has more in tonight's top story.
Supporters are hopeful for bipartisan votes on the far-reaching immigration bill.
We are on the verge of a huge breakthrough.
For Republican lawmakers, increased security was the deal breaker in supporting the measure. An emerging deal on the legislation calls for a doubling of the Border Patrol, with 20,000 new agents, 18 unmanned surveillance drones, 350 miles of new fencing, and an array of fixed and mobile devices to maintain vigilance. Green cards for undocumented immigrants would not be handed out until the added security is in place. Some GOP lawmakers are skeptical.
And now I don't think anybody denies that the amnesty is the one thing that will happen.
This bill and the promises surrounding it are full of hollow and ultimately illusory assertions.
Meanwhile, Ralph Reed of the Faith and Freedom Coalition rejects the idea that immigration reform be done for political or electoral reasons.
If you fix the broken legal immigration system by creating a temporary worker program, by allowing for a pro-family entry system. No, I'm not talking about chain migration. I'm talking about children and spouses. That you won't have as much of an influx of illegal immigration because people will be able to come here legally.
A final vote on the legislation is expected by the end of next week. The next move would be up to the House, where Republicans are overwhelmingly opposed to provisions that would grant citizenship to immigrants living in the United States illegally. Charlene Israel, CBN News.
The stock market was jittery again today on the heels of news the Fed may raise interest rates. Now investors want to know, was it just a correction or shades of things to come? Gary Lane has more.
The fall came after Federal Reserve Board Chairman Ben Bernanke announced the Fed may start pulling back from its economic stimulus efforts.
It's like a perfect storm out there this week.
That will bring higher interest rates, and some investors fear it will harm economic growth. Housing prices are increasing in many parts of the country. That's good news for sellers, but buyers are now paying 1% more for a mortgage. Interest rates on most home loans are now up to more than 4%. Some economists say the public should not be alarmed because the economy is improving. 175,000 jobs were added last month, and so far this year the stock market is still up more than 11%. Most analysts believe Thursday's market slide was just a correction, not a sign of more volatility to come. They believe the markets are simply adjusting, coming to terms with a new reality, as the period of U.S. government stimulus may be nearing an end.
Our economy is getting better, and now it's time for us to see how we can do it on our own. Once we get through that period, I think we're going to realize that we're going to be okay and things are going to get back to normal.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Senator Rand Paul says the U.S. government is getting out of control. Numerous scandals have quickly come and gone for the Obama administration, but the Republican senator says the common thread in all of them is that the bureaucracy and the presidency now have too much power.
And I'm starting to think that their public relations ploy is to displace one scandal with the other. But really, if you say, what is the nexus? What intertwines all of these scandals? It's really a government that is drunk on power. It's a government that has allowed so much power to gravitate to the presidency and as an extension to the bureaucracy.
Paul says when he came to Washington, he thought he'd be part of writing the laws, but he quickly realized that bureaucrats are now the ones doing that. He cites Obamacare, which was a 2,000-page law, but he says 20,000 pages of regulations have been added to the bill by bureaucrats. A Christian college in Pennsylvania is exempt from Obamacare's contraception coverage mandate for now. A federal judge said Geneva College could exclude coverage of birth control and the morning after pill from the health insurance plans it offers students. The ruling was issued this week because the school only had until Thursday to pick a health plan for next year. The injunction will remain in effect until there is a ruling on the school's lawsuit challenging the contraceptive mandate. As we reported earlier this week, the Christian ministry Exodus International is closing its doors. Exodus tried to help gay men and women through what's known as reparative therapy, which holds that sexual orientation can be changed with God's help. In an announcement on its website, Exodus President Alan Chambers apologized for promoting reparative therapy. The statement says in part, "I am sorry for the pain and hurt many of you have experienced. I am sorry that some of you spent years working through the shame and guilt you felt when your attractions didn't change." Talk about this is Dr. Mark Yarhouse with Regent University's School of Psychology and Counseling. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Reparative therapy has come under a great deal of scrutiny and criticism, as you know. Do you believe that sexual orientation can be changed?
Well, I think when you think about can God bring about healing and bring about change, with God all things are possible. But when you look at like the Apostle Paul, he asked, would you remove this thorn in my flesh? And God chose not to. So I do think we have to look at what happens when people don't experience as much change as they had hoped to experience. And I think that's what some of what you're seeing in the story.
But in essence, though, do you believe that sexual orientation somewhat can be changed? Are there varying degrees here?
Well, the study that I participated in conducting over 7-year span showed that some people were experiencing meaningful shifts along a continuum, but not everybody did. In fact, most people probably didn't experience as much change as they had hoped for going into the process. But I do think some people did, and some people experienced meaningful change.
Okay. Well, even Alan Chambers, the president of Exodus, who is married now to a woman, says he struggles with same-sex attraction. What would you say to someone who struggles in that way?
Well, when someone's pursuing change or healing, I certainly encourage them in that endeavor. But I also think that it's wisest to pursue the things that God promises us. So when God promises us sanctification and Christ-likeness, I think that's a better focal point for somebody to pursue their relationship with God, to grow in their relationship with Christ into Christian maturity. And that can be done independent of whether their attractions change. So if their attractions do change, that's what they were pursuing and what they were hoping for. But if they don't change as much as they had hoped for, I still want them to know that they're loved by God, that they can be mature in Christ. And I think sometimes we've taught a message that means to be a mature Christian, you have to have complete change of orientation. I think that's misleading for people.
So in other words, don't beat yourself up if you're still having some of these attractions. Pursue the things of God and His will, and then that will help bring about healing to varying degrees?
Absolutely. I mean, we all have things that we contend with, and sometimes those things don't change dramatically over the course of our lives, although they certainly can, and we grow more in our Christ-likeness over the years.
Okay. Well, how should we as Christians navigate this very delicate debate over homosexuality, reparative therapy, gay marriage, and so on? What is the role of the church in all of this?
Well, I think we need to have some humility here about what we know and what we don't know. I think that's a good posture to take. The position I take is one of convicted civility. I think we need to demonstrate Christian convictions in a culture that is really steeped in culture wars today. So I think the church is at its best when it sort of stands above the culture wars and says, we're going to provide ministry, we're going to speak truth, but we're going to do it with civility. We're going to be respectful of people with whom we disagree, but we're going to honor God by how we relate to one another and also by speaking the things that are true.
What did you think about Alan Chambers apologizing to the LGBT community?
Well, I heard him apologizing for the ways in which people have been hurt by the ministry. And again, it's an umbrella ministry where there are local chapters that are doing their ministry, their approaches to care. and they're just affiliated with Exodus. So there may have been things that were going on that just weren't as healthy. I don't know all of what happened. And I think he was apologizing for some of those experiences that have been hurtful to people. At the same time, he wasn't apologizing for his views about sexuality or marriage and things along those lines.
Okay, all right. Once again, Dr. Mark Yarhouse with Regent University's School of Psychology and Counseling. Thank you for your time and thank you for your research.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Coming up, meet Iran's new leader. Some say he's a moderate who wants to reform the Islamic regime. Others say he's just the same as the old boss.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes now.
After 8 bombastic years under Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Iran has a new president. His name is Syed Hassan Rouhani. But who is he, and does he represent the change the West hopes for? Here's Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem.
Iran's new leader is Western educated, speaks 6 languages, with a long resume in Iran's Islamic Revolution. Unlike the abrasive Ahmadinejad, he presents a softer image. His election led some Western leaders and media to brand Iran's new president a moderate who can change Iran.
Nothing is going to change. There's going to be a new style. There's going to be an Oriental bazaar.
Hebrew University professor Moshe Sharon says Rouhani differs from Ahmadinejad in style, but not in substance.
You should expect in the coming few months some kind of an overtures by this nice-looking man. He's got a fatherly face, speaks the right language, speaks the language which he knows that the West wants to hear, while exactly continuing with the plan of Iran to enrich uranium.
He's a clergy, as I said. He's Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, which is a high degree of clergy, not Ayatollah, but pretty high in the ranks of Shiite Islam.
Iranian expert Tamar Gindin says a cartoon posted on Facebook shows the essence of Rouhani's election, where he's shown painting a beautiful Iranian missile.
It looks much better, but it's still a missile. And he said himself that they're not going to stop the centrifuges.
While the president is the face of Iran, the real power lies with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei.
Don't think that Rouhani is going to develop his own policy. There's not going to be such a thing. He's going to present a policy which is going to continue to be created by the Supreme Leader.
Those policies include Iran's nuclear program, its support of Syria, and an alliance with Russia. Rouhani also has a long history in a regime that persecutes Christians, tortures dissidents, and built the world's largest terror network. When Rouhani served as Iran's chief negotiator, he boasted that Iran's nuclear program advanced during his negotiations. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu calls that game talk and enrich, which allows Iran's nuclear program breathing room. Some believe he might be more dangerous than Ahmadinejad.
He can be more dangerous from this point of view that he is going to say things which you want to hear.
Sharon warns the West might be headed to an unfamiliar Oriental Bazaar.
Everybody who was in Oriental Bazaar and knows the negotiations in Oriental Bazaar knows that there are certain rules. Unfortunately, the West doesn't know the rules.
While the West takes stock of Iran's new president, both Gindin and Sharon say the centrifuges will keep spinning, while Iran draws closer to a nuclear bomb.
The danger is that because he's nicer, he can buy more time. And then it might be too late.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, God-fearing daredevil Nik Wallenda is at it again. He talks about his next walk on the high wire across the Grand Canyon.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Welcome back. Last year on June 15th, Nik Wallenda became the first person ever to walk across Niagara Falls. Now this Sunday on June 23rd, the king of the high wire will attempt to cross the Grand Canyon. Why does he do it? His answer may surprise you, especially since at one time, Nik planned to become a pediatrician.
My great-grandfather said life is on the wire. Everything else is just waiting.
Nik Wallenda's life is always about keeping balance. Nik faces unique challenges as a normal guy with a not-so-normal job.
It's hard for people to relate to somebody who walks on a cable the size of a nickel 1,000 feet in the air, and I understand that.
Nik's family has been performing professionally for more than 200 years. His great-grandfather, Carl, brought high-wire performing into the family in the early 1900s and worked with Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey's Circus for decades.
He created the 7-person pyramid on the wire and walked over almost every stadium in the United States at that time. He really created the legacy, and I really kind of live in the shadows of him. Everything I do is kind of to pay tribute to him, because I wouldn't be where I am if he didn't pave that road and pass on that mantra that I live by, which is never give up.
Nik was brought up performing, but he didn't always plan to follow in his family's footsteps.
As I was growing up, my parents were really struggling to make ends meet, and I saw that. And my parents really said, you know, this isn't a career path you should take. Go to school, study, go to college, and go a different direction. And I really focused on that, and I got accepted to go to Southeastern Bible College in Lakeland, Florida. I planned on going there and then eventually going off to become a pediatrician. But I struggled because I had so much passion for performing.
Then Nik's family was invited to perform a 7-person pyramid for the first time since it fell in 1962, and 2 family members were killed.
I thought it was going to be my final goodbye. I thought I was going to perform in Detroit, and we can at least kind of regain this legacy and show that our family can still do this stuff.
The performance was successful, and the extensive media coverage got Nik's attention.
I decided, you know what, I am going to carry this on, but I'm going to carry it on in a big way, and I'm going to make sure to do big events that the whole world knows about. That was really my mindset from that point on.
Nik went on to set 7 world records, but it wasn't always easy.
There were still always struggles, and I've been extremely blessed since then and had some amazing opportunities. Of course, Niagara Falls was one of those huge ones. One of the most memorable walks in my career was going back to San Juan, Puerto Rico, where my great-grandfather did lose his life in 1978, and recreate that walk.
Nik was raised in a Christian home, and his faith has always been a part of his life.
There's no question in my mind that God has laid these desires in my heart to carry on this family industry. I think that God has given me a very unique talent, and I can use that to bring glory to His name. There was actually a headline in a paper not too long ago, the Tim Tebow of the tightrope, which is really cool. He used that platform of playing football and was really able to touch a lot of people's lives. And I consider that I have that, I have an amazing platform as well.
Nik trains hard for each performance and says that he doesn't consider his feats death-defying.
I don't see what I do as being more dangerous than a police officer. What I do is extremely calculated. I don't think God holds me on the wire as I'm walking across, but God's given me a unique talent, and it's up to me whether I train properly for that. But I also have trained my entire life to catch that wire. If I were to fall, gravity pulls you down. I train for the high winds, I train on a cable the same length, and overtrain. I know that I've walked a wire in training in 90-mile-an-hour winds before, and that didn't blow me off. We have rescue crews standing by that could be at me anywhere on that wire within 60 seconds to grab me off and pull me to safety. And it's important I always maintain that high level of respect for what I do and the dangers involved with it.
In fact, Nik says that his biggest concern during his walk across Niagara Falls was the tether he was made to wear.
It was something that I was very unaccustomed with, unfamiliar with, and am very uncomfortable with. So I'm excited that I'm able to do this next walk, in the way that my family's done it for generations. The tether can actually cause you to trip up. It could tangle around your neck, it could tangle around you never know what's gonna happen. My great-grandfather had an older brother that fell into a net and was bounced out and killed. And his mindset, he's passed it on to next generations, was if you have a net or a tether, your mindset is you can use that. So you become complacent, you become relaxed.
Nik's immediate family is a big part of his life. He and his wife, Wallenda, both come from a long line of performers and have 3 children together.
It's so important to me that every time before I do any of these big events, I get in a circle and pray with my family. And I always say, give God the glory. Let God get the glory out of what I'm doing. That is very, very important to me, that people, they don't praise Nik Wallenda, but they praise God for these amazing abilities. And I think that's part of showcasing like the Grand Canyon. To me, myself, it's hard to deny that there is a God when you see the Grand Canyon. That's my heart, and that's why I like to show these amazing places off around the world. I would walk across Niagara Falls, the Grand Canyon, if no one was there. It's about fulfilling a dream. It's important to me that people are inspired by what I do, that they see it as an inspiration that their dreams are possible too.
It all may seem a bit nerve-wracking, but Nik says his most peaceful moments have been on the wire.
While I'm on that wire, people can't understand, how could you be peaceful? Well, when I'm praising God, there's no one else to talk to, and it's my own quiet time. There's that prayer closet. Well, the wire often is and has been my prayer closet.
Nik has written a book about his experiences entitled Balance. He says that it's often difficult in life to keep that balance, but it helps to focus on what's important.
I was walking across Niagara Falls and there was raging waters on my left, and below me waters were boiling underneath and mist flying in front of me. But instead of focusing on all those problems that I had around me, I focused on the other end, just very, very similar to our walk with Christ. It's not always rosy, it's not always easy. Life isn't always, a dream. But with God, all things are possible, and there is that light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, you can watch Nik Wallenda's walk across the Grand Canyon live this Sunday, June 23rd on the Discovery Channel. We'll be right back.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
It's been 1 month since an EF5 tornado ripped through Moore, Oklahoma. 24 people were killed and thousands of homes and buildings were destroyed. Operation Blessing has been in the area since the storm hit. OB crews continue to help residents clean up debris and repair damage. Volunteers are also offering emotional and spiritual support through hugs and prayer. Residents are thankful for the support.
A man gave me this cross. He made it from the scrap from the tornado. And I appreciate that so much, and it means everything to me. And he was an Operation Blessing volunteer. I just want to say thank you to everybody, to Operation Blessing, and God bless. God bless you.
That's wonderful. Well, for more on how you can help Operation Blessing, visit our website at cbnnews.com. And that's all for this edition of NewsWatch. Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great weekend.